So I'm rolling. So, you know, be careful what you say. I'm just fucking around. Anything goes, man. Anything goes. Okay, let me get a pizza going. Do you want to make one?
I'd rather watch.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, I want you to get involved or not involved as much as you want, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, it was fun. Actually, I know Kyle pretty well, but not well. Like I know him from the class, right? And from going to mics and things, and you know, we kind of clicked, right, when we met.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta say, Gene and L'Oreal, I had a fucking blast with them last night.
Well, Gene's funny. Gene's not a pretentious person. He's very funny.
So I told them you were coming tonight. They were like, "Oh, give him our best." Blah blah blah. He said, "Oh, he's one of the good ones, right?"
Yeah, he knows. He says that all the time.
I know.
He's a smart ass. I laugh at him. I'm like, all right.
All right. So here we go. So that's rolling.
Okay.
Because
so
my back's to that.
So you got that rolling on you making the actual.
Right. And this is something that I didn't do the first 2 nights. Like I was kind of struggling with the idea of how am I going to pull all this off. So
Your issue with this is you want to get it, hold on, before you do that, hold on. I'm trying to get it where see how it's leaning down?
Right. Just loosen that.
Okay.
You don't want it leaning down?
No. You still want it to see you and lean. So go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's my ugly mug, right?
No, it doesn't make a difference. You don't want it to cut off.
Right.
What you want is this right
Okay.
Because right now, you just back it up. Always remember, you can always back up if you want the big shot.
Uh-huh.
You can always, so you've got this, which is perfect. Now, if you really wanted to get in candid, you can do it with your cell phone. You could, so see this?
Uh-huh.
That's what you want to do.
Gotcha.
So you look at yourself, you see what you're doing. You could put a camera not there.
I could put one here, actually.
Well, it would see it.
Right here and point. Oh, yeah, I got you.
You could always, well, technically, see, yeah.
Well, that's why I got the GoPro that I strap on my head. I can
that.
strap one up there, too.
But you see one, clip it here, and then aim it down to here. Do it with a cell phone, like a monkey.
Gotcha.
A monkey grip.
Yeah,
And you put it in
I don't think I have one of those, but I have something similar.
So you put it here and you aim it down so it looks at it.
Oh, nice.
While you're doing this. So now if it's in HD, you can actually crop it and it's all on your hands. So while you're talking, you can flip back and forth. So you're talking to the audience and you're bullshitting, but now you could say, so at this point, I'm kneading the dough. So now you got a B shot of you kneading the dough while you're talking. You could go back and forth. Hey, I'm kneading the dough. Okay, at this point, I'm putting on the cheese. Now it shows, now you got a B shot of you sprinkling the cheese on. Then when you come back and saying whatever you're saying, you're back there. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, this is fucking great, man. Yeah, I never expected you to be bringing all this. People, I had no idea.
People see the shit I do and they think that I've got 20 million other people doing it for me. Like my podcast, they think I got a bunch of people doing it. They're like, he hosts and he's producing the show. They goes, there's no way. And it's like, no, when you see the camera shots, I'm the one that's running the cameras. I'm the one that's putting it all together.
Oh, no shit.
I'm running all that. I'm the one going to find the B shots, putting the B shots together. I'm doing all this shit nonstop. That's just, it's my brain. I'm a production person.
Got it. How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing it for about 2014. I'm self-taught.
Okay.
And I work for a production guy who, him and I are really good friends. And I watched him. He films concerts with 17 cameras.
Oh, wow.
So his brain is ready. His brain is looking at 17 cameras and deciding on the shots. Okay, camera B, I need you to go here. Okay, camera number 10, I need you to go here. Okay, I need you to pull out. And he's got an assistant director and a whole nine. I taught myself how to do 3 cameras off of that, so looking at it. But if I had to do, I taught myself how to do all that watching him.
Nice.
And he's giving me access. The only thing I don't ever have access to is the stars. but I have access like the famous people. But I have access, but I do see them. But I have access to everything else. So I walk around like Wayne's World with my tag. I'm like, access, leave me alone.
No shit.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
Comedy is something I fell into because I have a voice, and I think it's an important voice.
So what came first then?
Comedy, getting on stage did, and then I started doing a small podcast.
But getting on stage doing what? Because I know you do motivational speaking also. Okay.
And out of doing the comedy, little by little, I said, okay. I started doing, when podcasting wasn't cool, and there was only a handful of people doing the podcasting, I started doing it because I always wanted to be on radio and have my own radio show.
Gotcha.
So before they started dinging us for using user rights licensing, I used to take segments where the original show that I did was Mr. Direct's Real Talk. And what I would do is have conversations. So I had people on this call, right? You call in, everyone would be in there, we start the show. I taught myself how to do an intro.
Okay.
Like how to edit an audio intro.
Right.
Like the beginning I taught myself how to do that, right? So it's layers of audio. Using this, talking here, talking over that, stuff like that. So I did that. Then we're going to take a break, and during a break, we're going to play music. So I would play music. Before the licensing thing came into part, I started playing a bunch of music. And I loved it because it was fun. Like, I get to play music. So then after that happened, it had to be straight talk. So when I did straight talk, I taught myself how to shoot voiceover in videos. Okay. So I would do videos, but I would do voiceover commercials. I taught myself, I went to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, but I taught myself how to do audio commercials. Okay. So I would shoot I would put in my own audio commercials as a joke. I had fun doing that. And then when they opened up Facebook Live, because remember when Facebook Live was first introduced, you had to be famous.
See, now, what year was that?
Around 2013 and 14. You had to be famous to use it. If you weren't famous, they wouldn't let you go live. You had to be famous. Then all of a sudden, they just let it go live to everyone. And when they wanted to go live, I said, well, shit, if they're going to let people go live, I should be able to do it from the computer. And imagine if I bought the right software, I could add 3 cameras and I could do it from 3 cameras. And I did. Right. And I green screen. I got there's so much footage I have out there. And I don't say that arrogantly. It's the work that I've been doing. And all of this is because I saw Whoopi Goldberg years ago do a one-man show. Okay. And then I saw
you mean like on stage, right?
Yeah. And then I saw John Leguizamo do a one-man show.
Right. I think he did Freak.
But he did something else.
Another one.
Spanish.
Okay.
I learned that that's what I want to do.
Gotcha.
I want to have so the book that we're going to discuss. That's my one-man show.
Oh.
So being able to go on and say, so okay, instead of you reading a book, here I am on stage, and I said, let's talk about this. In 2020, May 2020, we all sat and watched George Floyd killed.
Right.
We saw him murdered. You wouldn't treat a dog like that. If you saw anyone with their kneel on a dog's neck, no matter how savagely, if they told you that dog attacked them, you would have said the dog is restrained. Right. Let it go.
Hey, there's reasons why there's referees in the UFC.
Yes.
Right? You know when to let go of the fucking choke, right?
So that being the case, discussion started. When the discussion started, that's when I discovered the sad reality is that a lot of white people thought that they understood black life more than black people did. Because the minute we talked out, it was, shut up, you're just trying to be a racist, you're just trying to bait everybody. And it's like, time out. We're telling you, we're so fed up, we're finally telling you our experience. And now that we're telling you our experience, you're pissed off because it's something that you got to ignore all those years. And now you're saying, where did this all come from? Nothing ever comes from, when something is big, it never comes from nothing. It's been there. It's been under the surface. The problem is, Generation X was, don't say it. We've seen our grandfathers, our aunts, our uncles murdered for daring to speak out. Right. Get an education. Be a good citizen. Follow the law. Don't give people a reason to screw with you. And if you do, you might lose your life. So be quiet. So even if the racism,
but even today, a lot of that still exists.
Because our society. So this is what people have a hard time saying and admitting that we have a white male dominated society. They know it because they see it, but it's hard to say it because if they say it, it's an admittance of there's a problem. Because we're trying to, on one hand, say everything's equal, but on the other hand, we're also saying we know that there's some shit going on, but are we willing to deal with the shit? And a lot of people are not willing to deal with the shit. Now, with that being said,
you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to sweep the floor.
Oh shit!
It'll be fine.
Well, it's burning hard enough, right?
Yeah, no. But usually, what I do is I'll do it next. Usually, what I do is I put a hot rag under, and I sweep up the ash so that this doesn't happen to the bottom of the pizza.
Yeah,
but we'll be fine.
It's not going to kill me. So
not today.
That being the case, it's funny me saying that to you is Jim Brown. I just saw a video of Jim Brown and I posted it today on my Instagram. Jim Brown said that there was a white coach that was like a father to him and that he loved him. But also, remember, during the 60s, Jim Brown was outspoken about racism.
Right.
And people try to ask him, how can you do both? Because politically, you're saying white people, but personally, you're saying, I love this man like a father figure.
Right.
And I posted it because I said, that's the complexity of being black in America. You meet people who they get to a point that you don't look at them as white, as Asian, as Indian, as Italian. You just look at them as people because they welcomed you into their home. They broke bread with you. You would take a bullet for them. So they're just people. But when you speak out, you're speaking out in general as the overall. And people, we're so single-minded.
And that's the fucking problem, right? Because now,
single-minded that people
I need to wash this off. You could follow me. You could
People are so single-minded, and I will sign your book just like that.
Yeah, but we'll do it on camera so we piss people off. So I wanted to ask you, all right, I think we're just going to, I wasn't sure if you wanted to stage a couple of things. I think we should just do this natural.
I think for me, you want the best of me, you talk to me naturally.
Right.
Because I'm either going to be very funny off the cuff, or I'm going to be dead serious. And either way, it doesn't come off hostile. Right. It comes off, he's just being himself.
Right. That's fine.
What did I need? It like that.
Yeah, that's good. She's fine. She's fine.
What's her name?
Lola.
What's this?
She won't eat that. She won't eat that till later.
What's this? You gonna eat this?
Nah.
Come on, you gotta eat that.
She's a fucking teenager. So and she's only 4 years old, but she's a teenager. So like when it's time to go to bed, and I'm in bed and she knows nothing else is happening, that's when she'll eat it.
Now you're gonna run?
Yeah, she'll be fine.
So, long story short, the one-man show is built around that and coming to grips. I see it, it's good shit. So it's coming to grips with the reality of how I grew up and saw the world, and coming to grips with now speaking out about how I've experienced the world and how so many people are so scared of basically just admitting, like, yeah, you know what?
Well, I want to tell you some stories from my personal experiences, just so you see where I'm coming from. Yeah. But here's my thing, Marklyn. This was very well put together. Like you really took your time to break out the chapters, do it step by step, and I have to say, on certain chapters and certain paragraphs, I found myself putting it down and pontificating a little bit. But
which was the
that's to be expected, I think.
It was meant. That's why at the end of every chapter there was a.
Well, you have that whole thing, right.
I wanted people to stop reading and start reflecting, because it's not about whether I'm right or wrong. It's an experience, and I could never tell you.
She's fine.
I could never tell you your experience.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, we discussed that at Dingoes.
Yeah.
There's no way you could walk in my shoes or I can walk in yours. Right.
But we live in a society that we decided we could tell people what their experience is.
That's right.
To make us feel comfortable.
That's right.
So, it's funny. I went on stage today and I said, "There's a lot of Asians that are so happy knowing that it's Haitians eating cats." You know. And there was an Asian person in the audience that fell out laughing because we were the ones that were eating the cats. And here's the thing, that became such a stereotype that people never thought about it anymore. And now I'm like, so you didn't care when the Asians were eating the cats. Now the Haitians are eating the cats, and everyone's freaking in their ass about it. We're going to be outraged now. Pick your time. Pick your time when you're going to be outraged. And so, because I want that to be the one-man show, the reason why I want it to be the one-man show is I want to design it so that I can take it to schools and I could say, this isn't DEI. This isn't DEI.
Okay.
This isn't,
I'm going to have to slow you down there. I don't remember all the acronyms. So DEI.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Got it. Okay.
This isn't the other one that's in school. The CTE or CT.
The critical race. Right.
It's not that. It's not that. It's an experience as an American and how I experience this world.
Right.
And how many Black kids are experiencing this world today if they grew up in a white society. So I took one of the jokes. Right. So here's a joke. You're going to laugh about this. I took a joke. You ready? And I go, imagine being told, well, you're not really Black. Right?
Which is what I said to you.
Right?
Right?
Okay. Well, you're not really Black. And then it's like, okay, well, you could wait till I'm out of the bedroom. Why would you say it in the middle of sex? So that's the joke. Right? Damn, you're not really Black. Well, wait till I'm done. And then when I'm done, feel free to critique it. But wait till I'm done. And it's just the ludicrousness of it is you felt so comfortable to say that to me, thinking you knew what my experience is. Right. Without thinking I'm Black no matter what.
Right. So what you say a lot in a few of the chapters is, now I was born this way, right? I didn't choose it, right? And another way to say it, which then sounds racist, is you can't help it. Right? That's kind of a fucked up way of saying it, right?
It is.
But when I said to you about, being a dark-skinned white guy, it's not because of anything except that, where do you live?
Yeah.
You live in a I don't know where you live, but you live in a nicer town than this.
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, oh, okay.
So, and here's the other thing. So I remember there was a discussion with this guy that's a comic who's been in the comic scene longer than I have.
Oh, that's going to burn. I'm listening. So the idea is, I don't want it to cook too fast because we're doing New York style.
Yeah.
If it was Neapolitan style, then it's a 90 seconds, boom. But you got 800 degrees, right? This is, right, so if you take a peek underneath, you see how it's got that char?
It does.
And it's a little crispy?
Yeah. Well, you know what the crisp is. You know where the crisp comes from.
Oh, okay, here we go.
So on the East Coast, the Atlantic Ocean has more sulfur.
Is that true?
The water that we use has more sulfur in it. The sulfur, when heated, is what causes that to crisp. Because think about it. If you go to Florida and using Florida water, you don't get the crisp.
Yeah, but you know what I use? I use Poland Spring.
But if you go anywhere else, you don't get that crisp. So the thing about Poland Spring and all them, if you go look for the distributor, it's not a distributor from California. It's a distributor that's local. So technically speaking, if you pour tap water and run it through certain filtrations, you have bottled water now.
Got it. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So even though you're saying you're using Poland Spring, you're still using East Coast water.
Yeah.
So the East Coast water has a a higher sulfur content in it.
I did not know that.
So I found that out.
So hold on though, wait a minute. I was in California in Calistoga, and there's volcanic stuff there, and the water actually smells sulfur, right? But
that's how you're able to get it. So
I don't have experience with that, though.
I didn't know that until there was a guy that was Greek.
Oh, okay.
And he was saying how his cousin moved to Miami and made pizza, and the pizza sucked. And he goes, "What?" And he goes, "It's the water in the dough."
Yeah, well, Florida water smells like farts.
So his daughter, his friend, his brother, whoever it was, came up to Jersey and went to his mom's tap water, and remember when we used to drink from the hose?
Sure.
Took the water from the hose and filled up a tank and took the water down to Florida.
And then it got better?
And then made his dough from that water.
That's too funny.
And he said people were lined up around the corner because it became authentic New York crust pizza.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's crazy.
And he goes, "It's the sulfur." And I could be wrong. For those of y'all listening, I could be wrong, but this is what he said to me.
Uh-huh.
And I thought about it because I lived in Minneapolis for 9 years.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that too.
I couldn't get the crust for shit.
Oh, so you made your own?
No, I didn't. I just dealt with pizza. I dealt with Pizza Hut. Because Pizza Hut, the thing about Pizza Hut that I like, and I'm not a big Pizza Hut fan, but I'll say it to you like this. The thing about Pizza Hut that I liked, which a lot of people don't get, it's like McDonald's. You get what you get everywhere in the world.
That's right.
So for me, it was beautiful to go to some place and say, all right, it's not the New York deli pizza that I could get, right?
Right.
But it's not the New Jersey pizza that I can get. But I know it's going to be the same pizza no matter where I go. That's right. Because it's just the same recipe for the dough and everything like that. So I'm okay with that because you don't get this in Pizza Hut.
Right.
Even when they tell you they had thin crust, it didn't sell because it wasn't what people wanted from Pizza Hut.
Right.
So it was a lot different.
Well, I like Pizza Hut. And you know what? My wife loves thin crust.
Yeah.
And the Domino's thin, yeah, grab.
Dog,
she can.
Eat this.
She does. She has a little bit.
You give her whatever she wants?
Well, not everything. But, I'll give her a little piece of cheese,
She's a cute dog.
She's very sweet.
You had her from a puppy?
Yeah, we got her when she was a baby. She's a COVID puppy.
This is really good.
Thank you.
So you've mastered the art of making pizza?
No. I'm just getting started. I think right now I can do better pizza than everything in this neighborhood. But, I have a long way to go. It's not easy. And it's not that complicated, but it's not.
It's work. No matter what, it's work.
It takes practice. It takes practice.
Everything we do, going on stage, it takes practice. Writing a book, it takes practice.
Yep.
I will tell you, I was shocked that you purchased the book because you could have asked me, and I would have given you a copy because I had the PDF.
Well, so 2 things. I think it would be rude if I asked. Okay. I have friends that own I don't want to say their names or the name of the place, but I have friends that own a venue not far from here. And one night they had some star there that I would have liked to have seen, but I didn't realize he would play there until it was too late, and then I couldn't get tickets. Mm-hmm. And then I mentioned them when I saw them. I was like, I want, and they said you could have called me. I was like, I would never do that. I would never do that.
You don't want to take advantage of the friendship that you've created by asking for something for free when it's just like, did I really need to do that? So I get it.
I see only one flaw with the book. Only one.
Of course.
You know what the flaw is?
Oh, there's probably a couple of errors
in my opinion, no, it's got nothing to do with the writing. My opinion is that the people that you really need to read this are never going to open it. Ever.
And that's why creating it as a one-man show to put it in schools, even if I do it at a college level, it's going to put it in people's heads to understand it. Developing it so that now it gets some, because it's all marketing.
Right.
If you get enough marketing steam behind this, and people start saying, "Have you seen Marklyn's one-man show?"
Right.
And
So
people start, even if it's for 6 months, people say, "You got to go see the show." And you get, if you think about some of the shows that we grew up, because we're about the same age,
yeah,
roughly. I'm probably older than you.
I'm 10 years older than you.
Oh, really? You don't look it.
Well, you know why? I use this little shampoo that colors my hair a little.
Okay.
And I have a wife that keeps me young. I'm gonna start making another one because that's gonna be gone real quick.
So hold on.
But let's talk.
So what happened? My theory is, so it's funny. I just ran into a girl tonight, and she does sketch shows.
Like sketch comedy or
sketch shows.
Okay.
Like comedy, it might be sketch comedy too. And I was talking to her, and I said, "Listen, I don't believe things happen by accident." And I said, "I've been really trying to." I said, "I wrote a third book, and my book is meant to be a one-man show." And I'm pretty. If you read this, you can see why I say it's a one-man show. So, well, you did read it, so I didn't mean to say it like that, but you get it. You read it, so you get it.
None taken.
So, the reality is, I said to her that, and she goes, "I could probably send you to theaters that would give you grants to help develop it."
Sweet.
And I said, "That's what I'm looking for." Because putting this together as a one-man show, even if it's off Broadway, if I can put some marketing behind it, I know guys that are billionaires. I know guys that are millionaires that would say, "Marklyn, let's put some real money behind this." And I'm great friends with a guy who's a Hollywood producer. And if I gave it to him and I said, "Dude, let's film this like they did for Whoopi Goldberg, like they did for John Leguizamo, and then sell it to Tubi, put it on YouTube, and make people pay for it, right? If they got to pay $5.99 and some school sees it and says, 'Holy shit, this is really good stuff,' right? Okay, well, you're not going to pay $5.99 once. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, no, because I'm not going to let you. Like, there's ways to control the subscription.
Sure.
So, my thing is, I didn't write this to create a divide.
Well, it's already there.
I wrote this so that people can say, he's not some black power guy. Because if somebody read this and thought it was black power, you're an asshole. You were looking for a reason. You basically were looking for a reason to not like it. I want people to understand purely and simply. Understanding our experiences will let you understand the reason why, the way we operate and why we operate the way we do. And I'll give you a great example, and you probably saw it. My town has an Italian festival every year. Every year.
Scotch Plains.
Yes, for 4 days.
4 days?
For 4 days.
Wow.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
My friend's kid, he's 13. He's a 13-year-old Italian kid. White, Italian, Irish. He's probably a mixture of everything. Calls me Uncle Marklyn.
Right.
I'm goofy Uncle Marklyn.
You actually mentioned that person in the book.
He comes up to me. Now, when I tell you this, so imagine there's a bunch of tents around us, and I'm talking to a friend of mine from high school. I look up, and I see him darting over to my direction. Walks up to me and gives me the biggest hug. That's the way we're supposed to be. When I see people at the Italian festival, because it's like a high school reunion to some point, because it's people you went to high school with, you known.
Sure.
And you might not see them all year, but you see them there. When I hug someone, because I don't like to hug people, it's a genuine love. It's a genuine respect. Some people give me the creeps when they hug me, so I'm like, yeah, it's too skeevy. Some people don't understand me not hugging them because for them, they're like, but I love you and we're cool. Why don't you? It's just because sometimes I don't feel like it's a genuine just friendship hug. I think there's a little bit more to it. And I don't like to give off any vibe of it's anything more than what this is, a hug. That's just me. I'm in my own head with it. But this kid at 13 years old walks up to me, gives me the biggest hug. I'm like, hey, how you doing? He goes, I'm good. I'm like, who you with? His mom? I was like, yeah, I just talked to your dad, blah, blah, blah. I pulled out a $50 bill and said, here, go have fun. You know, I'm not rich by any means. I'm struggling like a motherfucker. Like, I'm struggling. But that's my guy. That's my guy. Like, I talk shit to him. He talks shit to me back. I got nothing but love for him. Real love crosses boundaries of color, of sexual preference. Real, genuine love is just about loving that person for who they are. And the problem with society is kids are like that. And his father said the ultimate thing to me. We don't need to teach kids about the racism. We really need to teach the adults, because it's the adults that are corrupting the kids.
Page 62.
Because these kids, they get it. They don't really care.
Well, that's not true.
They care when they get to a point that they hear their parents' voices and the influence of their parents' voices. Because again, I'll say it 20 million times, it's in the book. They treat racism like it's a precious heirloom, and I've got to pass it down to the next
generation. Yeah.
And they refuse to. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe I'm the problem with racism. You know, like they won't do that. Instead, they hold on to it and polish it.
Oh, but no. It's not even that. So, like I said, 10 years older than you, right? Back in the late 80s? No. It had to be the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I ran into this girl that I went to college with. Right? I graduated college in 85. Ran into this girl I went to college with. We wound up dating. Italian, Jersey City. The parents were, hardcore Catholic. The father used to love to watch Opus and Anthony. No, not Opus. Amos and Andy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever seen that show.
Yeah,
Amos and Andy. Now, I've never watched it. I heard about it from him, right? And he would say, like, I don't know why people don't like the show. It makes them look good. Like that. These are his words, right? So this is the upbringing. Okay. Now we're at Houlihan's in Secaucus, that little mall there, right? There was a theater and everything, so we're hanging out there.
Houlihan's.
Yeah, I don't know if Houlihan's is still there. I think that one. But anyhow, we're there, and she runs into this guy that she works with, right? He's like, "I just saw Jungle Fever." I never, right? Just saw Jungle Fever. Really hit home, and I'm like, "Okay, what's Jungle Fever about?" I never saw the movie. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Mm-hmm. So apparently it was Wesley Snipes, and I forgot her name. She's pretty actress. I forgot her name. So then the girl I'm with, she's like, "Oh yeah, that's terrible," right? She's like, I said, "Well, what if I told you I had dated a black girl? Would that be a problem?" And she's like, "Yeah, I don't know if I could keep dating you," right? And I'm like, "Really, really, like really?" But so when you talk about, so that's page 62, right? But I don't know if you call that systemic. Okay. There's two types of people in this. A lot of types of people in this, but there are people who, when they grow up, even when they leave their parents' house, they're still gonna behave like their parents. And then there are others that will say, "Well, shit, that's kind of fucked up," right? So, but there's a lot of people that are just gonna live that way.
I had an Italian woman tell me one time, "You think you got it so bad being black? Imagine having a vowel at the end of your last name."
So what does that even mean?
Because she's Italian.
All right. And she was embarrassed about being Italian?
The
stigma of now you're connected?
Connected.
Right.
And I said to her, and I go, in a real conversation, I said to her, "Your name sets off an alarm because you've been targeted as being associated with certain people."
Right.
A lot different than walking into a room in corporate America.
Nobody knows your name. They just see the color of your skin.
They just see me black, and there's an assumption of how I'm supposed to be as opposed to how I actually am.
Okay, so now that's another thing I want to talk to you about, because you talk a lot about how I'm supposed to be, right? And that's something I never even thought about. What I always thought about was just the assumption of, well, he's black, he's going to be this way, right? As opposed to, because you talked a lot also about the Jim Crow laws, which I got to be honest with you. I had no idea about them.
That you weren't supposed to know about them. Jim Crow laws were created to keep black people in their place. And what it was is, again, all based off of racism, all based off of the KKK being in charge. So by creating these Jim Crow laws, like for instance, I'll give you a great example of it. I shouldn't look you in your face and correct you.
Okay.
Because that's only a man that's equal to you can correct you.
Okay.
So and you can see it in multiple movies.
Yeah, sure.
When the police officer says something to him, no sir, I'm not correcting you, sir. I'm not sassing you.
Right.
By simply defending yourself properly, you're sassing them. Because the order was they're dominant and they're the dominant and you're the submissive. So in order to act as submissive, no sir, I'm not sassing you. I'm not talking to you. Don't look him in the eye. Because look him in the eye is reason to get smacked in the face because you don't know your place. Jim Crow laws were created to keep black people in their place.
But I thought all that stuff took place 100 years ago. Right? Right? So I had no idea that shit's going on today.
Well,
or maybe not today, but 20 years ago.
Did you see the debate the other
I
day?
watched it for half an hour and I couldn't take it anymore and I turned it off.
Did you see Trump's body language towards her? He wouldn't look at her. Hold on. You said you lost it for about an hour.
I watched it for half an hour. I turned it off.
When you were watching it, did you notice he wouldn't look in her direction? Except for the handshake.
Now that's a thing. I'm not a real strong, I don't know body language.
So
right? And we're going to talk about that too. Because I never,
So here's the thing. If you ever notice when a racist person is dealing with a person of color, or even anyone, when they're dealing, they don't acknowledge the person's presence, but so much.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, but so show me the body language that indicates that, because I'm not sure.
You're Kamala, I'm Trump.
Right. Oh, so he's not looking at her when he's addressing her?
He does this.
Oh, okay.
So when you're talking, it's the disacknowledge. It's the language of she's not worthy of acknowledging. Because if I look at you, I'm acknowledging you.
Okay.
You're not worthy of acknowledgement.
But hold on, and I'm not defending him. But okay, so when I was a kid, I was 10 years old. I went to acrobatic school because I saw my sister went to tap class, and at the show at the end of the year, they had acrobatics, and I saw there was a boy in the class. I was like, "That's fucking cool. I want to do that, right?" So I took acrobatics. So now, some years later, the Metropolitan Opera House calls the school and says, "We're looking for acrobats." So I go on this audition. Right, I'm 10 years old. It's for an opera, Pagliacci. The other kids that went for that audition were way better than me, but I was short. I had the Italian look. I fit the part. They chose me. I could do what they wanted me to do, right? But the other guys were way better, right? But here's the thing. All of the opera singers, except for maybe two, they would never turn their back on the audience. They would always face the audience. So when you said that, I just assumed that he just wants to look at the camera, right? I never took it as body language.
But there was no audience. And if you remember
but it's a camera. Like, we're not looking at the...
But if you look at the first debate, he would look at Joe Biden.
Oh, really? See, I never...
If you look at the first debate, he would look over at him. He wouldn't do it long, but he'd give him, he would look over in his direction because it's a white man to a white man.
Really?
But here's a black woman. I'm not going to just like when he says, "Oh, she turned black."
Yeah,
it's these subtle.
See, now I never heard that. I saw it
it's the subtle digs that people do on a racist level that kind of let you know they're taking their opportunities to say fucked up shit. Excuse my French.
No. We're free to say whatever we want here.
It's so accepted that when it happens, people don't bat an eye to it because it's normal.
Huh.
So like Tyreek Hill, he was told to pull down his window. He didn't pull down his window. He was being a little bit on the obnoxious side. The officer pulled him out of his car, and he was excessive with what he did. putting his knee on his back, and you're going to listen to me. He said everything short of boy, right? They said everything, if you listen to the video, everything short of, you're going to listen to me, boy. Because if he had said boy, that would have been another way of just calling him the N-word. But he did everything short of that.
Okay.
Right? Did everything short of calling him a boy. But my point to that is that the way the system works is that they know the things to say and do to still perpetuate that thought just short of doing it. A great example of it, if a town is 90% white, but 41 to 50% of the people pulled over are black. You're in that town. You're a 90% white town, Clark, New Jersey. How do you explain, let's say, I'll be nice. How do you say 42% of the people you're giving tickets to are people of color? Right. In a 90% white town. Right. How is that? They're driving through. How is that statistically possible? Right. That means when people are driving through, you're targeting them. I see a black guy driving. Pull him over. Give him a ticket. He was doing 3 over the speed limit. Jesus. He was driving on suspended list. They create these things that they say it's okay to do it. If you remember in the 90s when people talk about how great New York City was because Giuliani cleaned it up. Right. Well, it turned out Giuliani was doing stop and frisk. Even back then, before they said they were going to do it. I think they said it was 78 to 81% of the people pulled over, black and brown. Sure. Right? Targeting. Okay. What about the white people that were walking around with cocaine on their body? Did you check them? What about the white people walking around with heroin on them? Did you check them? Now, how is this playing out in racism? When you watch it on TV, who do you see getting busted all the time? Sure. So now what does your belief believe? That black and browns are more prone to committing crimes. How do I know this? You know who Charlie Kirk is? I don't. Charlie Kirk is a right-wing pundit who likes to go to campuses and discuss all these things with kids who have barely lived a life, and they're just repeating shit that they might have learned, but they're not schooled on life. He overtalks them. He constantly tries to badger them to get them to screw up. So he can say, see, I know what I'm talking about. So one of the things he goes, well, black people commit 50% of all crimes. And it's like, well, first of all, black people have long been over-policed. Why? Because most black people, unfortunately, majority of us, a good segment of us, live in poor areas. Well, what goes hand in hand with being poor? Even if you go back to the golden era of, not golden era, if you go back to the Renaissance era or way, way, way back, like when we think of Robin Hood, like that, poor people had higher crime. Sure. It's just human instincts. I'm broke. If I got to steal to get it, I'm going to steal to get it. I got to eat, right? Yeah. So, of course, you're going to over-police those areas, right? But people like Charlie Kirk seem to ignore during the 80s when it was turned out that it was the CIA that was taking cocaine and putting it in the black neighborhoods. Really? Yeah. Because I've heard other things about what the CIA did with other drugs, right? Just in general. But I had no idea. Let me start making another one. See, now that's the other thing, right? I don't watch the news, and the news is meant for you to watch. It's up to you to decipher and look up the information and figure out if what you're being told is the truth. The problem that we have today, full cancer. The problem that we have today is we have a bunch of low information people who, one, believe headlines versus the truth. And if they believe a certain stereotype, they have purchased that stereotype so much that anything that will let them believe that stereotype, I'm sorry, I'm talking again. No, that's quite all right. Anything that will let them believe that stereotype, they're going to continue to believe the stereotype because it's telling them that it's okay and that it's normal and that what they believe is the truth. They don't want to think or believe or have a concept that what they think is wrong. Because if you spent $8,000 on a TV, have you seen the new TVs?
I've never spent that much on TV.
Well, there's a new TV. Listen, there's a new TV that comes out that can fold. It's an LED TV that folds, right? You spent $8,000, right?
Right.
And somebody tells you, you could have bought that for $1,000, right? In your brain, you're gonna come up with every excuse of why the $8,000 was better than the $1,000.
Of course. Yeah, you have to defend. You always have to defend your. Yes, of course.
So if you purchase the concept that black people are more criminally prone than white people, right?
Right.
You got to defend that stance. Well, it makes sense that they're trying to keep the crime low in the white areas. So of course they're going to check all the black people, because that's what you convinced yourself is true. And you teach. So when I was living in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I want to. Okay, go ahead.
This is when around 2006.
Why did you move there?
I just lived in this area my whole entire life and needed something different. And it was different.
And you went to fucking...
I knew somebody out there.
Iceland. Okay.
I knew somebody.
Iceland, because,
Yeah, I didn't realize how cold it was. Long story short, out of that, what you'll get. I was working at Ecolab, and this is when the internet was starting to take off. You would go on the internet and look stuff up and discuss things, right? And I was working on a help desk, so I could have discussions, go back to my job, have discussions, go back to my job, whatever, right? And it turned out, you ready?
Yep.
When I went to Western Journal, Fox News, they used to have a link for crime.
Really?
They used to have a link for crime. Like, when I give you the tabs?
Yeah.
Right? Western Journal, Fox News, and any right-wing page, right? When you clicked on the crime page, out of their top 10 stories, 8 of the top 10 was black people committing crimes.
Okay.
Right? So now, if you're consuming this every day,
right,
what are you to believe?
Okay.
Right?
But
if you watch the news in general, and if you get stuff from every place, so like today, an article came out that a guy had killed his dad last year, and that the other day he killed his mom.
Oh,
white guy in Florida killed his dad murdered his dad last year, murdered his mom this year. Right?
Wow.
White guy.
Okay.
Who's the kid that was 14 years old that the cops had been at his house and just, had a shooting at the school? It was a white kid. Other articles of people doing wild ass shit, like white people doing wild ass killings and stuff, underreported. It turns out that white crime is underreported and like doing the stats on it.
Right.
Because they did some other stats and they found out if they arrest a white person, they're more than likely to let the white person go and say he's a good person. He'll turn his life around.
Really?
Versus a black person had a higher chance of being sent to jail for the same crime than a white person.
Oh shit!
Now somebody will say it's made up, but there's articles that show it.
I didn't clean it again.
Yeah,
that's fine.
This came out great.
Usually what I'll do is I'll take this one, wrap a wet cloth around it, and just scrub up the. And we were talking, and I forgot.
So it's things like that. It's things like that that you learn and you look up. And my experiences of how people have dealt with me. I was one of the good ones. I really was. I didn't talk about race except for every now and then because I could tell.
Is that what you mean by one of the good ones?
Well,
the good ones?
When the protesting went on, when the protesting happened, I remember when it was every town.
There's protests everywhere, yeah. Right? So which protests are we talking about?
So in Clark, New Jersey, the mayor was caught on camera, and he was addressing the protesters. Right. He said, "I like black people, the good ones."
Right. Right.
Now, what's funny about this title is I told my aunt about the book, and she said, "I used to be called one of the good ones." And I looked at her. She goes, yeah. They used to say it to me like it's a compliment. Like, you're one of the good ones. And black people get it. And there's white people that get it too, because they've heard their aunts, their uncles, their mothers, their fathers, their grandfathers say that. Right. Oh, you know that black guy over there? Yeah, he's one of the good ones.
But I've heard people say it about people that are not black too.
Yeah.
Right?
I get it.
I didn't know it was a racist thing, right? I didn't know.
Technically speaking, it's not racist,
right.
But it's racist when it's being put forth on the black person and saying, sure, he's one of the good ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, before that, I remember watching a movie and somebody said, they said the black guy by name. And the character said, well, he's as good as a nigger can be. Right?
Oh shit. Okay. Well, yeah, that was they do that in movies to make
He was as good as a nigga. He's one of the good niggas, as good as a nigga can be.
Got it.
Right?
Right.
Black people have heard this line a whole lot.
I'm gonna throw another one at you. Right? Halle Berry.
Yeah.
She's a very pretty girl for a black girl.
She's crazy.
For a black girl, right? You hear that all the time, right? No, maybe you haven't.
She's beautiful. Period. Yeah. She's also a wackadoo.
That's I don't know her personally. She's pretty though.
She's a wackadoo.
Is she? I have no idea.
Any woman of that caliber that can't keep a man is crazy as fuck.
Maybe. Well, you don't know. So okay. So there's another.
And when I say caliber, I don't mean that she's a star. I don't mean that she's famous. What I mean is how beautiful she is, and how accomplished she is in life, and she can't keep a man. Something's wrong there.
But okay. Now I don't know who she was married to. I don't know anything about her personal life. But you know, stars are a different breed, right? Because they're in that.
They become that.
They're in that pool, right?
They become that when they get to superstardom, where it's like when I walk, people take care of me. They become that way.
Yeah. Because
they believe I deserve it. I worked hard to get where I'm at. I deserve everything I got.
Well, I mean, okay, but and different people take that to, right? So you know, you work hard for what you got. You want to hold on to it, right? But yes,
you got to believe you're
thinking you're better than other people. That's the problem.
If you're a comic, you have to believe that you're a comic. If you're a superstar, you have to play the part of being a superstar. How does a superstar act? How does a superstar talk? How do they address people?
Yeah, but they can still be a little down to earth.
Very seldomly.
No, that they are seldom, I suppose. But there are some, I'm sure, that are super nice.
Yeah.
Right? They have to be.
There are. There's tons of them that are, but a lot of them are playing a role. I have to be this way because I'm in Hollywood. I have to be this way because 20 million people watch me every day.
Right.
And because 20 million people watch me, I have to act a certain way. I have to think a certain way. I have to, like the people that are apolitical, that you never see them talk about their politics.
Right.
It's because they've developed their character to be apolitical. Nobody should know who they are.
Well, okay, so a good example of that kind of person was Tony Randall. Tony Randall didn't want you to know about his personal life.
Except for the fact that he was 72 years old and banged up a chick and had a kid.
Did he really? I didn't know that.
Tony Randall had a kid at 72.
I did not know that.
Tony Randall banged up a chick at 72 years old, and why now.
But when reporters stopped him, he would always say, "I'm not going to answer those questions." Right? That's my personal life. Right?
Which is what you should. But he did that to create the illusion.
Okay.
I don't fault him for it because
no idea.
People do that. I want to create an illusion of who I am. So therefore, what you see on camera is what you see, and what you see in real life, you don't. Because when they say the never shall the two meet,
right?
That's that. Never shall the two meet.
Sure.
If I end up being the complete opposite of the character that you see on TV, you'll no longer believe the character.
I guess. Right. Well, that's just like a lot of those good-looking guys from the 50s and 60s that were gay that couldn't come out because then they couldn't be the leading man anymore.
How are you going to believe if you know that Rock
But it's
Hudson,
called acting. It's called right. Didn't Bill Burr? It's called acting, right?
But if you know that Rock Hudson is bending dudes over and
right,
out, yeah. and you found out that Rock Hudson was blowing out young dudes that were young, because that was his thing.
I didn't know that.
Dudes if you ever watched the movie about him, he was in a young hung dudes. That was his thing. Yes, right. If you knew that about Rock Hudson, right? Would you really believe? And if you knew that Rock Hudson was letting these young hung dudes blow his back out,
right?
Would you really believe that he's banging Elizabeth Taylor? Because in your reality of
Right.
your mind, this dude's getting bent over every night and getting his back blown out. So there's no way he's banging Elizabeth Taylor.
I had no idea.
And
I mean, I knew he was gay, but I didn't know.
You're adding to the mystique of it. So there's recordings. There was a movie about Rock Hudson, a biography or documentary of him a couple years ago. And when you listen to it, the guy goes, "Yeah, you'll like this young one." And he explains how the kids hung. And he goes, "Don't tell me that." Like, that was, it's funny when you hear it, you're like, yo, Rock Hudson was a wild motherfucker, yo. That was his thing.
Oh my God.
And how he lived with the guy, and how he had a whole entire life around that. That was his thing. And there's nothing wrong with it if that's your thing.
That's your thing. That's your thing. You know, I tried to do I did a bit about it, but you know, they make up these words, right? Like homophobe. And, you know, my whole thing is, you know, a phobia is a mortal fear. Like, you're just afraid that you might die. So I'm not a homophobe, right? Unless you're Mike Tyson.
Yes.
And wildly attracted to me. Yeah, I'm a fucking homophobe.
But I mean,
you're not going to fight that guy off.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Everybody creates an image in their brain of what their life is supposed to be and the way they're supposed to work.
But also what you hope to achieve.
Yes.
Not everybody.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. What I'm saying, like, not everybody. Some people don't even discover. You said that, and I got to tell you, me too. You didn't discover what you wanted to do till late in life, right?
So you could call it my midlife crisis. That's when I discovered it. I looked in the cubicle, and I'm like, is this going to be my fucking life? These cubicles.
Right.
I'm going to die in a cubicle. Lo and behold, we see the lady that died at Wells Fargo. After 4 days, they discovered her. You
wrote that on the right.
Right, like 4 days.
Right.
And I can guarantee you, I would have been that person.
That's HR's problem, though.
It is, but it's still, that's your life.
Right.
Going to a cubicle every day and reporting in for work.
But I got to tell you something. There are a lot of people that like that.
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Think about what school is, right? What is school?
That's my thing. School never prepares people to really follow their dreams and discover who they are. School streamlines them. And the thing is, it's either the Rockefellers or some other rich family has a direct tie to how schools operate. They didn't want to create entrepreneurs. They wanted to create worker bees.
That's right.
And because they wanted
workers and soldiers.
That's all they wanted to create. So because they created that, you had to fit the mold of being able to do what you can do in that. Now, out of that, 1% is always going to rise out of that and say, I could take this and apply it somewhere else and be the top of the top of the top. But some of us are creative. And if we're not put in an environment to create, well, we find other ways to create. And some of the times the ways we create, some of us become druggies because we can't release the things that are in our brain. Let me tell you something. I'm not a drug head because I was too scared to go home to my dad and be like, Dad, I'm addicted to cocaine. I'm addicted to crack. Because I grew up with a mother and a father in a home. I never wanted to put that shame on them. Like, am I broke? Yes, I'm broke. I can admit it. Am I living the life that my parents? No, not really. But you want to know something? Deep down inside, I know my parents are like, this motherfucker's doing what he wanted to do. And I remember 2 weeks before my dad died, I showed him a video. And he goes, you curse a lot. But then he said, anything you ever want to do, I know you're going to do because I've seen you do it. Meaning I'm so stubborn, I can make things happen. And I believe, and that was his. My dad wasn't the "I love you, son, and you're the greatest kid in the world," but that was his way of saying "I see you." When he said that to me, that was his way of saying.
But was he supportive of you?
He was in his own way,
following what you wanted to do.
He was in his own way, but they're not. My parents weren't artistic.
But they're older.
They're
too,
older,
right?
But they were in their own way. But my mom had passed away in 2006. I believe. Listen. My mother would have came in a dream and be like, motherfucker, get a job. She hasn't done that yet. My dad came in my dream one time. I hadn't sold the family home yet and I needed to. And he was like, dude, sell the damn house. He's like, I came back from death for all this. So like he had came back from death. And I remember waking up. I was like, oh shit. And I went and I was like, all right, I got to put this in motion because I was basically sitting. I wasn't going to do shit. But make sure that don't burn.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm actually living that right now. And I'm glad that it's working out the way it's working out. My son he's a musician. And my wife, and he's a smart kid. And my wife wanted him to go in either the medical field or this or that, right? And he's like, it's not for me. But, the fact that he's a smart kid and that he's good at what he's doing, and he's already hustling, he's going to be fine. And here's the other stigma, when you go to school and you do what I do, right? Like I write software, okay? So you go to school and you have a particular curriculum, and then you go get a job and you do that kind of thing, and they're like, oh, you make a comfortable living, right? But there are a lot of musicians that make a comfortable living, but they're not David Lee Roth, right? But I'm not Bill Gates, right? But it's okay for me to not be Bill Gates, but when someone pursues music, they got to be the rock star.
You have to find a way. So my friend told me last night, she goes, I've never heard you so calm and relaxed in your life. And I said, I go into the city every day and do mics. I'm on a stage every day. Almost 20 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. Sometimes, 30 minutes, right? And I go, you can't beat that. Nothing in this world will ever feed my soul like going on stage. I'm good at it. I'm not only good at it, and I'll say that, and you could disagree with me. When I would go to Scotty's, and you could, if you were paying attention to me, you could tell when I was in a mood, and you could tell when I didn't give a fuck. When I'm in a mood and I didn't give a fuck, I'm one of the funniest guys you're ever going to meet. Because I'm very in the moment, and I'm just saying whatever the fuck I want, and I'm not thinking about doing a set. My brain has been adjusted to whatever the fuck I want to say, I'm going to say. Which is when I'm usually the funniest. Because I don't care. I'm literally on that level of, it's all shit now, let's go. Okay. And I have fun with it, right? When I'm thinking about doing a set, my brain is racing. Can I say this? Do I do this? Do I twist this? Do I twist this? Very good off the cuff. I'm very good. Well, I know my jokes, but I like being off the cuff.
Right.
Am I one of the
But
best?
You got to remember your jokes.
Yeah.
Right.
Am I one of the best? No, but I'm one of the better ones. And I knew that.
Well,
and I love it. I love, I sincerely hope Gene and L'Oreal get another spot. And I understand that the overhead for that spot was too much.
So they told me the whole story last night. L'Oreal's father owned the place.
Yeah.
Right? And then when they had to sell, but they said their best year was 2019. They started in 2007, but their absolute best year was 2019. And then COVID happened, right? Yeah. And then Gene was like, and that's when people figured out that they could drink bourbon at home for cheaper, right? That's what he said. I was like, oh, it's funny.
I could buy a bottle of bourbon and sit at home and drink it and not have to worry about it.
And we talked about how, some of these guys, they go there and they're like, oh, I don't want to have to spend $7 on a beer. I was like, dude, you're out. If you're out at a bar just hanging with your friends, you're still going to buy a beer. And you get to get up at an actual comedy club instead of just in a basement somewhere.
The best thing that I loved about going to Scotty's, there are people that you would never rub elbows with that you rub elbows with. And no matter what, we're all comics. We're all fucked up in the head one way or another.
Are we though?
All of us. We're all, there's a screw loose somewhere for all of us to want to get on stage and take that abuse. There is. Because it's abusive.
Is it abusive?
It's when you put your opinion out there for the world to see, there's a level of abuse you got to be ready to take. I love it when I boosted this. There's a thread when I first boosted this back in February. Sounds like a racist book to me. And I kept responding to people. And one guy inboxed me and said, you would think for a guy that's a comic, you'd have thicker skin. Right? And I laughed about it. And this is the reason why I laughed. And I'm going to say this 20 million times. This book is not comedy.
Right. No, it's not.
So why would I have to have thicker skin for something that's not based on comedy? I told this friend recently, and I'll say it 20 million times. I will take a room with 1,000 people, and I'm up there doing my jokes, and no one laughing. I'll take that, right? Versus a great day, and someone says, "I'm going to give you $300,000 as a raise in corporate America, but I'm stuck in an office or stuck in a cubicle." I will take that 1,000 people not laughing, because at the end of the day, I'm an asshole. You're going to laugh.
So let me ask you this, though. What is it about the stage that turns you on so much? Like, what is it? What is it about the stage?
Freedom of the expression, freedom to be myself. I don't have to be pretentious. I don't have to act. I don't have to pretend to be somebody I'm not. I never fit in. I never fit in because I was never like anyone else. I didn't want to be better than anyone else. I'm not better than anyone else. I'm just not like everyone else. And I think baseball players know when they're better than every other guy on that field.
Right.
Football players know. Like, holy shit. And it might take a while for them to buy into it, but eventually they buy into it. And then when they get to the D1s and someone goes, "Yo, scouts are here looking at you," then they're like, "Oh shit, this is real." Right? You ever see you ever see the movie The Program?
I see. Now, I'm not a sports fan.
Okay.
I don't watch sports at all, but I do understand a little bit.
So in the movie The Program, this guy was great, but he had a problem with his dad. His dad was an alcoholic. And then he was an alcoholic, but he was a Heisman Trophy candidate. Like, hey.
Oh, shit.
So he goes into the year and he's putting all this together, and then one thing spins out of control, another thing spins out of control. And then he tries, like all of a sudden he's no longer a Heisman Trophy winner or a candidate. But he comes back, he has a good game, but he tries to have the conversation with his dad, and his dad's, again, we pass certain things about who we are onto our kids sometimes. So our demons, sometimes we pass on to our kids. And his demon was his dad was an alcoholic. So that was passed on to him. And that created self-doubts in who he is. I've had teachers that knew I was talented. They could just tell, because I would do certain characters and I would just act out. And there was a talent there. But my parents were like, get an education. They didn't know shit about entertainment. Because you got to think about it. White people or black people, most of the people we saw on TV, 1% was new talent found. Most of them had family ties to Hollywood.
Sure.
And if you think about it, for us growing up, Hollywood was still new, if you think about it.
Right.
Because you're still coming off the vaudeville of the 20s and the 30s.
Right, sure.
When it wasn't a whole lot of TV, it was more radio, but it was his father was the DJ for this radio station, and he did radio, but then when TV came around, he decided he wanted to do TV acting. Like, it was always a generational, my family's already tied in. So you would only hear about 1% of people. Now, with TikTok and Facebook and YouTube, the world is open to anyone that's got an idea.
Sure.
And that's why you see so many comics out here now. Because now that you see all these comics out, and that's how I realized the thing that ticks me off most, what I love is with comedy, you get to share a part of your pain. And it's not that I suffered, because I didn't suffer. I had a good upbringing. But the way I used to view the world and see things, and the way I was always outspoken, and people were like, shut the fuck up. They tell you that because they don't understand the way your brain thinks. Because they don't understand that your brain is translating things differently than them. Because most people believe and see and regurgitate information the way they've been programmed to do it. But when you're a talent in your mind, you believe and perceive and regurgitate differently than everyone else. Even if you find a way to do other jobs, you're still perceiving, receiving, and interpreting and regurgitating a different method. So my teachers used to always say, well, he's great the first semester or first half of the semester is great.
Then he gets bored.
Then after that, he gets bored.
Yeah.
But they couldn't understand why I was getting bored. And I'm like, I'm getting bored because you're repeating the same shit to this idiot that can't figure it out. And my ass has figured it out. I'm bored. I need constant. So you've never done a show with me.
No.
I do a lot of pacing when I'm doing shows.
And I won't until two things happen.
What?
When I'm ready.
Okay.
And when you think that I'll fit in one.
Well, one, you'll never know when you're ready until you do it. You'll never know. When somebody gives you that offer, you just got to do it.
No, I understand, but you also have to, like, I'm never going to ask.
Well, not just with me. I'm saying in general.
But whoever's doing it is going to have to say, yeah, I think Tom would fit in here, right? So I'm going to teach you something, and this is from the first book I wrote. You got to ask. Right, but not ask. Like you got to ask. Yeah. No. So I understand sales. You got to ask, right? No. Rich, the booker at Broadway Comedy, I'm sending him a text every other day. Hey, Rich, you got any available spots? I'm available. Right. I got to constantly let him know that I'm available. Right. So he hasn't responded to me today. I'm going to send him one more text tomorrow because I usually do the midnight show Fridays and Saturdays when he gives me something. Right. I don't do it normally, but when he gives me something, I'll send him another text around 1 o'clock tomorrow. If he doesn't respond, then that means this week he doesn't have anything. Right. Instead of me giving up, you know what I'll do? Hey, Rich, I had a great show last Saturday. I have a spot. If you have a spot available, let me know. And I send them every week. Got it. You know why? Because it's showing Rich I want to be there. Sure. So my point is, if you want to be on a show, you got to find out who's booking shows. Right. Even if they're local spots. Right. And you got to reach out to them. You got to say, I would love to be on your show. Give me 5 minutes. Give me a guest spot. Right. I'm not looking for money. I just want time. That's right. Right? That's it. Right. So like a friend of mine, Mike Marino, is doing a show at this place, Guano, in Scotch Plains. And I said, Mike, if you don't have audio, I got the speakers. And he was like, well, why don't you just come and do a set? I was like, Mike, I'll be in the city because I'm taking a class to get better performing. My dream is to be a New York City comic. And when I say that, I want to know I'm good enough to get booked around New York City. Yeah. And when I do that, it's also going to involve with me being able to go outside to Arizona, Texas, Colorado, and being able to come back and move around, right? Right. To the point where I'm booked out every weekend. Right. Every weekend you see me getting booked out for 2 to 3, but not to be a Dave Chappelle level. Just to go into a club. I might make $500, but make them laugh. Yes. And be one of the people. Because I always say the funniest people are not the Dave Chappelles that we see. It's the guys that are sitting there grinding it out every day. Because they have to be more topical than Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle's at the point where he gets to write and say, I'm going to run this script for the next 3 months. Well, I mean, right, but you still have to develop an act. And then that's why you go city to city, because then you can bring that act. Yeah, but if you're an everyday comic, you can't talk about Kamala in the debate longer than a day or two. Right. Because the news has changed. Sure. But when you're Dave Chappelle, right, he could put out a special 2 months from now. Well, not right before the election. He'd be like, did y'all see that debate? And technically it's still relatable because people will say, okay, he's talking about that. Right. But he's talking, see what I'm saying? Right. When you get to that point, you get to kind of date stuff. Right. And still make it relatable. But don't you try, I don't know what your method is for writing as opposed to doing stuff off the cuff, but don't you try to write stuff when you do write? I write everything, but I also use my mind as far as, so like I've been thinking about it a long time, and it's since COVID, people don't know how to greet each other, right? Some people shake hands, some people elbow, some people whatever. And I said, I'm going to let y'all, and I said the joke, and I didn't record it, which I should have recorded because it was hilarious. And I said, if y'all ever notice, I dab some people and I shake some people's hands. Now what's dab? Like that. Okay. Like I give a pound. Okay. Dab, right. And I go, I'll tell you what it is. If your hand is smaller than mine, I'll shake your hand. Right? Because it's good shit. But if your hand is bigger than mine, there's no way I'm going to feel like a bitch when you shake my hand. And I'm like little tiny hand to that big ass hand. Right? So I'll dap you. Like when so do you have Trump hands? This dude is like, this dude walking up like 6'3". I was like, fuck you. And I he starts laughing. He falls out laughing. He goes, that shit is funny as fuck. I go, because if you pay attention,
And I go, what caught me off guard is one time there was a dude shorter than me, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go shake his hand. This motherfucker had a glove.
Barney Rubble hands, right?
He had a glove. And I was like, oh, he fucked me up. He was like this. So this dude, this comic coming after me was shorter than me. And I knew who he was because his girlfriend edits video for me, right? And he comes up and I dapped his hands. He goes, I'm the little guy he was talking about. So it was a perfect setup. You see what I'm saying? But it was an actual thought.
Right.
That's how I try to use stuff that people can relate to every day.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's my own weird twist on it because it's the truth. Who the fuck wants to shake hands with somebody that's got a big ass fucking hand?
Well, or the guy who's going to squeeze your hand, right? Like, do it 3 times, I'm going to punch you. But no, what I was going to ask is about writing is what do you? Oh, she must hear something over there. Yeah, she's growling at something. There's something over there. I think maybe there's a cat's outside.
Is the cat or a gopher?
Something. So anyhow, I prefer to not write about things that are like time sensitive. Like I'd rather write about something that I could talk about for longer.
So here's what I'm going to say to you. One, you got to get over that because I had to get over it. You got to write about what you write about and talk about it.
Whenever, whatever you feel like.
Whatever it is. Because if you watch some of the better acts, they could take something that's 3 years ago and make you relate to it today.
Okay.
It's just how they're putting it together.
Okay.
How you're talking about it. You got to talk about it as if it happened yesterday, even if it was 3 years ago.
All right.
You know what I mean? Like I got a Trump joke, and I know like people don't realize when Trump first ran, they used to have a Trump dating site.
Really?
Yes, for people that were Trump lovers, and I used the slogan for each one: Match.com. You make the money. Match.com. You make $100,000. I make $100,000. We match. You know what I mean? Blackpeoplemeet.com. You're black like I'm black, right? JDate.com. You're a Jew like I'm Jew. New Jersey Jew versus New York Jew.
Sure.
I was like TrumpPeople.com or Trump Love or whatever it was called. I was like, grab him by the pussy.
Grab him by the pussy.
You know what I mean? That was the joke. And I took too long to get, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's the joke that killed. Like I got it on tape of me doing it. And it was right before the pandemic and it killed. You know what I mean? Again, you got to be able to use stuff and be able to, and I would still tell that joke.
People will still remember pussy grabbing, right? That's one.
But see how it's still.
But do you remember
relatable.
Kyle Rittenhouse?
Yeah.
See, now I don't think a lot of people are going to remember that.
Yeah, they would.
Are you okay?
You got to make it relatable. Kyle is the most famous school shooter ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like talk about it. Kyle Rittenhouse is the most famous school shooter ever. You got
school. He didn't shoot the school.
Doesn't make a difference. You got to take liberties. Well, sometimes you got to take liberties with what's being offered to you.
Yeah.
So,
see, that's what I'm looking for. See how it doesn't sag, and it's got the color under there. But I made the mistake of doing this style with a flame, and then it burns fast. That shit burns shit fast.
So you got to remember when it comes to comedy, everything is about you taking liberties with what's being offered to you. I tell a joke that a school gave me a bulletproof vest and a taser. My first day. And then the punchline is, yeah, I'm gonna fucking taser some white kids. Makes me sound like the angry black guy that just wants to fuck up white kids. Nothing could be further from the truth. But it's funny because you think I would say that it was a black school, and I'm like, no, I'm in a white school. You see what I'm saying? It's taking liberties with what little people give you and turning it and twisting it and making people laugh about it and be like, oh, that's funny. I had a lady admit to me, she said today on stage how she doesn't like to wash. And I said this, I just sat there for a second. I said, why is it white people are always willing to tell people that they don't like to wash? Like black people would never, I was like, a black person could be the smelliest person in the room. They would never tell you that they don't wash. They will let you smell their funky ass and everybody in there is holding their nose, eyes watering, and they'll still be like, nah, I use soap. I use Dial soap. I use Irish Spring. Like, they will tell you every type of soap that they use. And I'm like, but white people will be like, oh, yeah, I didn't wash my ass for the last week.
Really?
What the fuck is that?
Who says that?
The whole room was laughing.
So, back in college, in math, there was a certain math class. Me and a few of the kids, we would wait for this guy to show up and then pick where we were going to sit because he reeked. And he was, so we didn't know where he was going to sit. So we had to make sure we sat on the other side of the room. It was nasty.
And the problem is, that guy was probably so smart. He wasn't a dummy, but he might have suffered from being like borderline autistic. He might have had Asperger's. So for him, he didn't think anything about the fact that he wasn't bathing.
There was a different reason. It was an ethnic reason.
But even then,
yeah,
in their country, a lot of people in their country, certain resources are so scarce,
perhaps,
that they don't ever think about not washing.
Right. Maybe.
Because for them, we can only get water once every 2 weeks. So we're all used to the body funk. So he doesn't realize he smells like shit.
Maybe.
You do, because you're able to take a bath every goddamn day since the day you were born. Mommy and daddy was like, nah, bathe that little motherfucker. Versus them, it's like, oh, he'll get a bath in 3 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's weird shit. Different cultures have different habits that we as Americans don't ever take into consideration when they come here. So I told this joke, and it's the most hilarious thing. You guys, I'm like, we hate immigrants in this country, but we don't realize how much we fuck up immigrants. Because if you come from a strict immigrant family where the father's the head of the household, the mom runs shit, and you don't ever talk back, I'm like, let that little girl or little boy be around American kids for 6 months and he start talking back to the parents. The parents is like, oh, we like this now. Oh, you think you can just talk to me however the hell you want. I'm like, we don't like them. But them motherfuckers sure don't like us after 6 months because they're like, oh, you think you won't talk to me like that? I will fuck you up. This is different. People don't have this. Americans, we are so privileged as Americans. Like, people think I hate America, and I always tell people, I love being American. I couldn't do what I do if I wasn't American.
So that's we were lucky enough to have been born here. And that's dumb luck. That's just dumb luck. And people talk about like American pride. I don't know, man. When I talk about pride, I talk about accomplishments. I didn't, being American isn't an accomplishment. It was dumb luck, right? So being able to make better pizza than
us being able to sit here and have a conversation and be able to record it and hopefully put it online and people see the conversation, that is such a privilege that we have that people take for granted. I don't take anything my friends that have supported me financially, I don't take that for granted. My friends that come out to shows that support me, I don't take for granted. People that have done things for me that don't have to, I don't take it for granted. I used to take it for granted because it used to be a feeling of obligation. Like, I deserve this. I am so fortunate to be able to be here and pursue my dreams. I'm so fortunate that I had the intellect to write 3 books. The average comic going on stage at our level did not say they wrote 3 books. They can't.
You're right.
And I don't say that in an arrogant way. I say that as when you run down credits of what people have done.
Right.
And people are like, oh, he performed here, he did this. And it's like, yeah, it doesn't sound like much. And then the minute I say that I wrote 3 books, people are like, what? But it catches people off guard because it's like, this motherfucker wrote 3 books? Not 1, 3. And I still don't even do that because I don't always tell people I wrote. Like when they do my credits, I don't always. I produce a podcast that's national, because I'm on public access channels across the country with my podcast. I edit it and send it off.
Okay.
I'm fortunate that way. Very fortunate that way. But at the same time, there's a level of humbleness behind it because it's like, you know what? It could all just go away tomorrow. Sheer luck. Sheer luck. And like you said, we're sheer luck that we're born here.
We're lucky enough to have been born here.
Yeah.
But I watched you on it was last week. There was a podcast. I forgot the name of the podcast, but it was a white guy and a black guy.
Oh, yes. It's more than black and white.
That's it, right? So I watched that one. You know, so I saw you talking about the. Actually, I marked some pages, and we already talked to. Oh, why is it?
Because it's been outside.
Oh, it's like dew.
Yep.
Wow.
Outside.
But I didn't expect it. Like usually that happens like by morning, right?
Yeah.
I sent you the pages, but I folded them. Oh, what do we got here? I didn't sign up to be black. Right, we talked about that already.
Yep.
Oh.
You're looking at me like you want to hit me, doggy. I ain't messing with you.
I don't remember what the fuck.
Why are you snarling at me?
Is she?
She's got that no restriction.
She loves people. They want people to be authentic. Companies saying they want people to be authentic, right? But then, but you can't be you. But nobody can be you.
Yes and no.
I mean,
if you're a white American, you can be more of who you are in white America than blacks can. So
I got to tell you about what just happened to me. I just got dragged into HR.
Really?
Yeah. So, I write software for a living. And my boss asked me to do something for him, right? So, and it happens to be one of the things I'm really good at. And that is, there was this query that he was doing, and it was taking like forever, right? So, and that's what I'm really, really good at, like tuning shit. So I started to look at the query and tried to analyze it. My computer kept running out of memory. So I started systematically taking things out of memory to give myself more memory to test this thing. And then finally, I couldn't do it anymore. So what I did was I rebooted my computer. When I rebooted my computer, all of a sudden, IT had pushed other shit, and now I had more restrictions. So now when I tried to do this or that or the other thing, it was saying, well, you don't have permission to do that, right? So then I clicked on the link that said, explain to them why I need permission. And then when I clicked the link, it didn't take me anywhere. And then I was really pissed off. So finally, I clicked the link and I just typed, blow me. That's sexual harassment. Even though it went to nowhere. It went nowhere. Now, this motherfucker doesn't understand the difference between sex and contempt. Because that was the fucking feeling I was having.
The Indian dude?
No. This was HR. It had nothing to do with Indian people.
No, I mean, the person interpreting what you wrote.
No, he was Ruiz, but he was the director of HR.
Okay.
The guy that I talked to first was actually a black guy in HR, but they were just following their book.
It's the protocol.
You can't do this, right? Yeah. Right? If you say those words, blow me, and look, blow me means a lot of different things. It depends on the fucking context.
They have to follow up.
And I didn't email that to somebody, right? Mm-hmm. I responded to what looked like something that went nowhere, right? Mm-hmm. Blow me. I had to fucking sign documents. So now I said to this guy, I said, look, so, and then IT services said, well, if you really need more memory, we'll just get you a new laptop. And I said to the guy this, I said, look, what I do for the company, besides write software, is I'm responsible for this whole online presence for this thing, right? So I'm always trying to make the software more efficient so it uses less CPU, less memory, a smaller footprint, so that we can spin up smaller VMs, so that we could charge the same amount to our customer, but we make more profit, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my goal, right? I want to make our software much more efficient. And IT's response to all this is, we'll just give you a new laptop with more memory. Like, it's the opposite of what right? And then we talked on a little bit more about blah, 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 blah. And then finally he said, well, that's technology. And I'm like, you motherfucker, you didn't even listen to a goddamn thing I said, or scarier, you didn't understand it. I don't know which one is scarier.
Well,
he didn't understand it,
what you're saying,
or he didn't fucking pay attention.
Well, so I will tell you as an IT tech support person, because that's what I was in corporate America for. Processes that you were using, meaning probably the applications and everything, all running at the same time,
right?
Were eating up the memory that was installed. So that's why he said, we need to give you a new laptop with bigger memory, because the laptop that you had, the memory was probably at full capacity as far as it could go.
Well,
so what you're saying makes sense. Essentially, you want to make it so that it can use less. However, if you're running, you got to remember, memory, random access memory, right, is like a highway for your applications.
Sure.
The more memory you have, the more applications you can run at the same time. With updates, certain software that's running in the background, you're using so much of that already. Now, on top of that, you're trying to do all this other stuff. And what they're doing is, what you guys don't realize is, are you using Windows or using a Mac?
Windows.
Okay. If you do Control-Alt-Delete and you go into the system tools, it'll tell you what.
You mean on Task Manager?
Task Manager.
Yeah.
It'll tell you what process is running what.
Right.
So that you're able to figure it out.
Yeah.
There are certain things, once you're in an environment like you're in, certain applications that have to run standard, because instead of us saying only certain people, it has to run standard for everyone.
Right.
Because they know this, when they start recommending we got to give you a new laptop with higher memory, it's because we cannot eliminate these processes that are running on your laptop automatically. So, for instance, if your laptop creates a data image every day, like some good companies, there's a data image that creates a backup of your computer every day.
Okay.
So if your computer crashes, they can replicate it in like an hour and give it back to you and say, well, we can't get you today because you did it before, but we can get you 8 o'clock from last night because we created an image and it's sitting on the server. So we can go and grab it. That takes time. That takes up process. So what you said was right. Dude, I'm trying to make it so that we use less memory on a computer to increase our profit. But what they said was right too, and this is the problem with technology. Their thing is, we don't give a fuck what you want. Yours. So we originally gave you 16. But with all the processes and everything that we're running, plus what you want, we're going to have to give you 64, because right now all your processes are eating up 55.
Right, but here's what I did. When I rebooted, that cleaned everything out.
Okay.
All right. So now I got 16, but just what IT loads on your computer was chewing up 8.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
And
right.
That's my point.
Right.
So,
but that's not my point. Right. What they did on the reboot was they had already pushed new shit. So now they added new restrictions that I didn't have before the reboot. Right.
But did they ever tell you? Did they send? So IT is supposed to send you an email and tell you to reboot. Now, the way that they do it sometimes. So I remember.
Well, they force reboots all the time.
So what happens is, if you don't reboot like you're supposed to, technically you're supposed to reboot every night. Like you're supposed to turn it off, or you're supposed to do.
Actually, you know what they did? They set it up so that turning it off and turning it on isn't the same as a reboot. They did that. They flipped that switch, right?
That sucks.
So you actually have to do the reboot in order to make it happen. But my whole point about it was, there's a whole bunch of shit that they're running on my laptop that doesn't need to be running.
Well, again, you say that because you're looking at it. For them, there's a reason why it's running.
But they also took away my privilege to run at high elevation. So in other words, I used to be able to right-click something and say run as administrator. Can't do that anymore. And there were certain apps on my laptop that needed that. And now I can't run them anymore.
So what they need to do is they need to create a group policy of administrators. and they need to say,
well, they didn't do that.
They need to go to the main server or the Active Directory.
Right.
They need to make a group policy for certain applications.
Right.
That you need to be an administrator.
Right.
And automatically, if you're a person on a computer,
right,
using that group policy, because you're running an application, it'll trickle down to you.
Right.
It's all about. Here's the thing. IT needs to find a way to keep their job. So of course they're going to make the shit more difficult than it needs to be versus being proactive. Because I've done this shit for so long, I can do this shit in my sleep. Am I great at it? Not really. But I understand the philosophy. I understand how it goes. I'm better now, especially because I've done comedy. I would be better as a client representative for IT support. Like going into a company and saying, okay, how many divisions do you have? We got 25 divisions. Okay, so you want IT to support 25 divisions. Let me be the representative of IT for the 25 divisions, meaning I'm the face and just talking to people and explaining stuff to them. Because I could explain it in dummy terms and say, listen, I know it hurts, but it's a hurt that you're going to have to deal with until we figure out the proper process to get it done. Which I can make people feel safe about it because people will be like, okay, he gets it.
Right.
Again, on a market, I'm worth $125,000 to $150,000. That's also a job that would actually consume 70 to 80 hours of my job.
It's crazy, right? Life. Too much time.
It's too much time, and I would want to kill somebody at the end of 6 months.
Absolutely. Because
it's just going to this office and doing this, and okay, I got to put out a fire over here. Okay, I got to do this. I know what I'm doing.
Right.
I hate it.
Right.
IT is a struggle between those people that need it and the people that got to support it.
Right.
Because they're two different ends. But you're efficient and you know what you need.
But I'm a developer, right? And you know, like.
So what they should have done, now that you're saying developer,
right?
What they should have done if they were proper, and I'm not going to ask you what company you are, but whatever company.
Yeah, we don't want to say that out loud.
But whatever company you're at, what they should do, essentially, what they're supposed to do, is they create group policies based on the fact of what you do.
Right.
So marketing gets a group policy.
Sure.
These are all the applications that marketing runs. This is the access level that you need if you're in marketing.
Right.
Right? That's there. Developer. What level developer are you? Are you C++, Python? Not asking you.
Yeah.
Are you Python? Do you need Max?
Right.
Because now we got to give Max access. We got to create said group policy to allow all this to happen underneath.
Right.
Do we? And it sounds like what's going on with your company is the asshole that's in charge didn't go backwards and say, these divisions need certain access, and these group policies are going to counter effect what they're doing. Instead, they created group policies and said, we're going to let it fall out and it'll come back to us.
What they did was, we have international clients, right? So they're worried about all of the European laws about different things or whatever. So they just globally did things.
So they're stupid.
Right. Yeah,
they're supposed to group. So here's the problem that I have when it came to IT. See how you just said global?
Yeah.
When people have a global presence, they start pushing shit out on a global level.
Right.
Instead of understanding what happens in Europe isn't necessarily needed in America.
Right.
What happens in America isn't necessarily needed
because then the European whoever is allowed to now run audits at our company. Well, see, that was my contention, right? It's a privately held company. Who's going to come in and audit? But if you want to make the sales in Europe, then you have to let them audit. It's that trade-off, right? Yeah. Right. But meantime, you know, I'm managing all these Azure networks, and I'm spinning up Azure VMs, and I've got, you know, managed SQL up there and everything else, and I'm spinning up my own.
Do you run virtual machines?
Oh, in my particular case, we're doing virtual machines, but in other parts of the company, they're doing, you know, service.
Because there's I remember a guy for a company I worked for, and he had we built out a huge server for virtual machines. And he had like 3 or 4 servers sitting on one huge
server. Right, but they're putting everything in the cloud, so it's all on the Azure platform. The same concept, same thing. But in my house, I set up my own firewall, and now I've got 4 separate VLANs, right? So I've got a house VLAN where all my, like my Roku, all those devices all connect to that. The Wi-Fi connects to that. None of that can see the firewall or even access any of the switches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I've got one that I use from my company because I work from home, and that connection VPN's up there, but they can't see the rest of the network.
Which is
I've got my own business, right? I have a software company myself where I sell my software that I wrote, and that one has access to everything. And then my wife works from home; she works up here, and her company is HIPAA compliant, so she's got a separate VLAN so that nobody can see the other, right? All the VLANs are totally separate, right?
How many are you using Verizon as your backbone?
Verizon's the backbone.
Or did you use a friend of mine he used Verizon for an upload, and he used a DSL line for the download.
Oh yeah, I don't have a DSL. It's all Verizon.
Well, at the time, DSL was big.
That's right. But that's a while ago.
He used one for upload and one for download.
Got it.
And he had a router.
Oh yeah.
So he was able to, upload, download, and say, okay, fine. And he used one for upload. That wasn't Verizon. I forget who it was because it was Comcast. And then what he did was he said,
Comcast, Optimum, right? They're all kind of the same, right?
And what he did was he said, if one goes down, the other one will kick in. He used them both for backups.
Oh, nice.
So if one went down, the other one would kick over as the upload and download.
Got it.
But when they were both running, one was download and one was upload, and he was able to get connected. Because you can't run it. I mean, you could now.
Right. Yeah, things are different.
You could run a T1 into your house now.
Right. T1s are expensive.
It'd be expensive, but you could run if you got the money, you could run a T1 into your house and do a whole bunch of shit with it.
Right.
So again, I'm telling you, this is the shit I did. I knew. I'm just like, oh God. Like even talking to you, I got a fucking
got a headache. So listen, we got to keep going and doing this, right?
Well, we're not. I got another 20 minutes. I got to go.
20 minutes. You got to go
because it's 10:45 and I got a long day tomorrow.
Okay.
We've been here for a minute. We've been talking.
Well,
Did you see the time on that?
I didn't put the cookies in yet.
We don't need the cookies.
You want?
I got the beer. I had this.
You want key lime pie or?
I'll probably get the key lime pie. How long has this been running?
Oh, I don't know. It works good.
Dude, this is an hour 42 minutes. We got some damage on this. Hey, camera.
You want the key lime pie or the? I'll bring them both out.
Bring them both out, and the water's over there, so I'll drink the water.
Yeah, you got to drink. You got to stay hydrated. Yep. So no more beer.
And I just got to go to my car. I got to get an ibuprofen.
Oh, I have some in the house.
I just got to get a small tablet. Just one. Do you have one?
Ibuprofen? I have.
Perfect.
Oh shit! We can shut this off. That's okay. I'm gonna just put it all together and.
Will she eat this? Or
yeah. She might. She might. Like I said, that stuff you saw in the dish up there. She won't eat that till we're in bed, and then she'll go eat that. She's like a teenager. But she's got a little bone over here that she probably didn't tackle yet. Oh, no, she did. She ate the bone.
The green one.
No, that's a greenie. No, I gave her like an actual, bone with a little piece of meat on it. You know what we could do? We could just bring it out and cut it. That's fine. Oh, you want ibuprofen?
Yes, one.
Yeah, I got
200 milligrams. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I need a.
Thank you.
Welcome. I need one of these.
Why is your wife in Vegas?
So she works for this pharma company, and they're doing the product launch.
Oh, okay.
She's a nurse, but she always wanted to work for pharma. But I always ask her, like, what would you really, really, really want to do? and she has no idea what she'd really like to do.
Because everything's been programmed into our brain. Once you decide, like once you figure out what you're doing, you kind of play this game of, okay, well, I've been here, I've been doing this, so I'm just going to stick to it. It becomes a game of this is what I know.
Well, no, I mean she had it different because she's from the Philippines, and she knew that in order to come here to the States.
Time out. Are you shocked that a Philippine woman is a nurse?
That's right. So she knew she had to be a nurse because there was a nursing shortage, right?
Yes.
Right. But you know, then once she got here, she didn't have to be the, you know, work that kind of nursing job anymore.
But she's a hard worker.
She is a hard worker, but Jesus Christ.
It's in there.
No, you know what it is? There's parchment paper at the bottom.
Ah.
That's
so you're trying to pull it off the parchment paper.
Yeah. So I fucked that up.
Don't worry about it. It is what it is.
Jesus Christ. It's still going to taste good.
Thank you.
So, you've heard the expression. I know you've heard the expression.
Pecan pie, okay.
Pecan pie. Well, I wanted to make stuff from the South for you because, you know, I know you like Paula Deen, right?
Yeah. Now you're trying to be funny.
Trying.
I appreciate that.
But you have ties to the South, right? Didn't you say your parents were?
My parents from the South.
Did you know that in, oh shit, I shouldn't even say this. I'm going to say it. In 1848-ish, or, you know, just before the Civil War, 82% of Jewish families in Charleston, South Carolina had black slaves. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not to that number, but we knew there was a huge Jewish population in the South. They don't talk about it a lot because they want to perpetuate the myth that Jews are using black people to take over the world or take over this country.
Jews are using black people's. I don't understand the.
We're their pawns. That's what they use.
Who's they?
White supremacists.
Oh,
that's what they use. Like we are pawns for the Jews. So the Jews are doing everything in their power to use black people to overtake white people.
I don't understand the.
I don't get it, but that's
the strategy or the.
That's the thought track they use, which is kind of weird.
That is kind of weird.
The reason why I think it's weird is because the reality, well, I kind of understand it a little bit because there's a lot of American companies that invested in Nazis when World War I and World War II was going on. A lot of American companies were heavily investing in Nazis, Germany.
Actually, there was a suit about IBM having a mainframe over there to help them count stuff.
It wasn't. So, I know people are going to think this is weird, but one of the main driving forces of Trump being in office is all these rich people that were making money off of war.
Oh, for war.
If you keep the war machine going on, if you're invested in certain companies, you're going to make tons of money.
Sure. Well, the companies that make weapons.
Trump wasn't getting a dime of it. And a lot of these companies wouldn't let him invest because he's a piece of shit. So by becoming president, he could do favor for the Saudis, for the Russians, for various people who in turn, listen, technically you're not supposed to make money off of it. However, if you make this policy go my way, here's $15 million that'll go into your family's chest.
Huh.
How do we know this? Trump companies made $2.1 billion while he was in office.
Huh.
$2.1 billion. The people brag that he gave up a $1.2 million salary. Right?
I thought the president only makes $400K a year.
Over 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
2.1 billion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Versus 1.4
million. Order of magnitude.
And people will say, Trump's the first president to lose money while he was in office. I'm sorry. You want me to feel bad because he didn't make $5 billion? That he only made $2.1 billion? That's where we're at? I feel bad for Jeff Bezos because Amazon had a rough quarter and only made $30 billion.
Right.
Like, that's the logic you're using. You know what I mean? I go, when the lady said this to me, and I said, I really want you to take the time and explain to me how you're asking me to feel bad because he only made $2.1 billion.
But somebody actually asked you to feel bad for somebody, really?
They were like, he goes, Obama. So what she said was, Obama made $40 million in office. I said, first of all, Obama had properties. That's number one. And number two, Obama had books. Now, if you make an appearance, even as president of the United States, you can still get paid.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they can, if you make a special appearance somewhere, people can still pay you for your presence.
And even after.
Yeah. And I go, so you're mad at Obama because somebody's willing to pay $300,000 for his presence? You wish somebody would pay.
I'm mad at Pelosi. That's different.
Well,
but that's different. And the thing is, like, I really wish what they would do is make a Pelosi index, so that at the time they make their purchase, it's on the index fundraiser, so that we all can benefit from that insider trading.
People could be mad at her for that, but I will say this: she didn't do anything in any of those other motherfuckers.
That's right.
They were all doing it.
Of course.
The problem is, and this is the part that sickens me about Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
The same shit they're doing, they talk shit about the Democrats doing it, right? They want the Democrats to get caught with their hand in a cookie jar,
right?
While telling people, well, look over there while we're doing it, right? And then when you look at their numbers, okay, so you came in with $100,000 a year job, and you're walking out with $50 million in your pocket. So
yeah, I'm not.
So what's the difference when a Democrat does it? Oh, but they're crooked when they do it. What's the difference?
I don't like it when anybody does, right? They're all game in the system, right? All of them. I am so far in the middle. I took a test, right? Answered questions, and I'm like right in the fucking middle. I'm not on anybody's team.
I'm conservative socialist. That's how I because I did
conservative
the test
socialist.
You sent me. I lean more conservative, but it's either. I think it's in the middle. But it's more.
The top is fascism. Side. The bottom is libertarian.
I'm nowhere near that. I'm in the middle.
And the left is like close to communism, and the right is.
I'm more social. My friend and I were talking about where we grew up. You're social conservative. Depending on how you grew up and what your beliefs are, you're more conservative than social, or you're more social than you are conservative. I'm more of a social, just because, not because I think the government's supposed to take care of us, but because I believe in social justice.
Mhm.
I honestly, I will say this till I'm blue in the fucking face. We need a government that cares about everybody and not only certain people.
Right.
Period.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, right? Liberty and justice for all. But right, who's got the short end of the stick, right?
So when people tell me you're supposed to salute the flag, I go, first of all, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Because you're picking and choosing to decide what laws work for you and don't.
Mm-hmm.
So said a ruling in 1954, Supreme Court versus the state of West Virginia. Because there was a person who was and I could get the year wrong, it might have been 56. The person was a Jehovah's Witness. Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in saluting the flag.
Okay.
So said the Supreme Court, not saluting the flag is protected by your First Amendment freedom of speech.
Right.
If you don't want to salute the flag, you don't have to salute the flag. Then in the early 1980s, another Republican Supreme Court justice said, burning the flag is a expression of a freedom of speech. It's an expression of speech. Whether you like it or not, if a person burns a flag, it is their right. It is a protected right because it's freedom of speech.
Right.
The problem is, and I will say this to the day I die, the staunch Republican only likes laws that they like.
That's right.
And if they don't like the law, all of a sudden you're anti-American because they don't like the law. Colin Kaepernick didn't do anything wrong. He sat on his ass first, and then an army person, a retired army guy, told him, if you want to do it the right way, take a knee. It's a signal of a down soldier. You're signaling about down black men and how country's fucked up, the NFL is fucked up. You're taking a knee, rightfully so.
Okay.
I get it. When people started going after it, I don't know if I forget if I mentioned it in this book because it's been
I don't remember Colin in the book.
But the reality is, and I'll say this till the day I die, they want black people to entertain them.
That you say in the book.
Yeah, they want us to entertain them. They don't want us to make them think about the reality of how we exist. And the reason why I personally can say that is, again, I was one of the good ones. As long as I never spoke about racism, I was one of the good ones. Well, you're black, but you're not black. What the fuck does that mean? Well, you're not black. But no, I'm black. And we talked about it earlier. This thing's an hour 40 minutes.
Yeah, no, I know.
So what I'm saying is there's a reality that Colin Kaepernick put in front of America on a national scale where white people were talking about, well, he was raised by white people. What the fuck does that mean?
I don't know.
Do you think every time people saw him, they knew that there was white parents involved? See, like,
yeah,
it's that type of twist.
But I don't know why people have to rationalize these things.
Because they have to rationalize their excuse for hatred.
Oh, and that's my whole point about it, right? I mean, we're all a little racist.
We're all racist, biased,
but is there hate?
It's not always a hate. Sometimes it's indoctrinated. Listen, in every black home, we talked about Chinese, Jewish, Indians.
My wife's from the Philippines. She's funny as fuck. She really is. She really is funny as fuck. But you got to remember, that's the Philippines. Guess who lives there? Filipinos. I mean, there are foreigners, but they're Filipinos. You know, and you know it is what it is, man. But she's here. She adapted. I mean, you know. But sometimes she says some funny shit.
We as Americans will never become better people until we can confront our sins.
You have to first admit that you have one.
Prime example, and then we can be done with this.
Are you done?
When Donald Trump, I got another 10 minutes because it's 11:02. When Donald Trump said there's fine people on both sides and said, you took what I said out of context. He did what's called doublespeak.
Okay.
He said that there were good people that showed up to defend Robert E. Lee. Right?
Okay.
For the taking down of the statue. Robert E. Lee was a Confederate general that owned slaves.
Uh-huh.
And was protecting the Confederacy.
Mm-hmm.
Confederacy wanted to continue slavery, which is poor treatment of black people, and break away from the United States of America.
Right.
If you're defending that and that legacy, you're racist, or you're a racist sympathizer. There's no sugarcoating that. So when people try to defend that statement that he was like, well, he was saying that, and I go, you do know that Robert E. And this is, you do. I had to say it to somebody on the internet last night, on the Facebook.
I saw it
because I go at people all the time. And
yeah, I don't touch those.
And I
don't
but I say it. But I say it. Let me get this straight. This dude was trying to secede from the United States of America.
Right.
He owned slaves and was trying to defend the right to continue to own slaves.
Uh-huh.
And you think people trying to defend that legacy are good people? Explain that to me. Feel free.
Right.
And I'm typing this all out. And they were like, oh. And I go, the fact that you said that tells me more that either one, you lack education, or three, you lack the ability to think for yourself. Because that's double talk. On one hand, you're condemning racism. Then on the other hand, you're saying the people who are defending the legacy of racism are good people. Double talk.
Yeah, sure, I got it.
Double talk. Now, I always tell people, I'm not the smartest person in the world. But if you cannot see how someone's doing double talk, we have no reason to have a conversation any longer. Because anyone with an open mind would be able to be like, damn, yeah, why are we honoring a motherfucker that wants to secede from the country? And what I tell people is, remember when I said indoctrination? I use the word indoctrination when I say it in the book. We've been indoctrinated that it's okay to honor people who want to secede from the country. We've been indoctrinated to say it's okay that we have statues. But when you think about it, why do we put up statues these days? Why do we put up statues?
To honor that person, right?
To honor. So if you're trying to honor a racist, what do you think we're saying? If their legacy is about racism, what are we honoring them for?
Right.
How does that make sense?
See, now, that's interesting because long before any of this came to light, before they started taking down statues and everything, right? I'm talking 1998. 1998, I was in San Francisco, and up on Coit Tower, and there was a statue of Christopher Columbus. And then there was spray painted on it about him being like a murderer and this and that and the other thing. And I never gave it any thought. I didn't know how they went about killing all the indigenous people, right? But had it not been for him, we all wouldn't be here now, right?
That's false.
Now, why is that false?
America's named after a dude from Italy named Amerigio or something
Really?
like that. Yes.
Okay.
He discovered his country first.
Huh. Now, why weren't we taught that?
Spain
took
credit. Well, Christopher Columbus took credit.
Christopher Columbus was an Italian.
He didn't land here.
No, he landed in the islands, in the Bahamas. Yeah.
But we were here before, and proof has come out that Africans were here way before anyone. Because they found African...
Well, you got to remember, the Continental Divide happened, right?
But they found African artifacts in certain areas, like around Minnesota, North Dakota, like around those areas. But like real African, not like hey, it looks like somebody bought this here, buried it here, like real shit that was old as fuck.
Really?
Yes. And they try to hide it because they don't want you to know that this land was discovered way before.
But why? But
America, because America has created this myth of what it is. And now this is the part that's going to sound racist as hell, but it's not. They wanted this to be the land of whites.
Okay.
White dominated.
But who?
Only.
Who's they?
Those within power.
Okay. So Washington, Jefferson, those people.
Well, the original founders, outside of them, want this country to be the land of whites.
Okay.
The reason why we have the Electoral College is because there were more people in the North than they were in the South.
Sure.
But the South had more slaves, which is a 3/5 compromise. Count us as 3/5. Well, let's use the Electoral College. Right? That gave it weight, that helped weighted it out. But now it's no longer like that because everyone's free and one vote, one count. That's it. One vote, one count.
Right.
That's it. Right? The Electoral College.
Right, but I thought the Electoral College was also because if it wasn't in place, then New York City would have way more power than the whole state of Dakota.
But that's
right. Wasn't that the concept?
That's the whole. Oh, it looks like a mouse or something that ran across there. It ran from over there to over there.
A little bastard, huh?
Yeah, it ran fast too, like it darted. You might want to close your door because you don't want to get in the house.
I saw a raven tearing one apart the other day.
So you're right, but however, all that has changed because there are states that have more electoral colleges, which don't make sense compared to the amount of people that live there.
Okay.
So it doesn't make sense anymore. The way this country has 324 million people.
Yes, I thought it was 350, but
it might be 350. Out of that, and I want you to think about this concept. About 60% of the people vote.
Right. Well, you got to remember, if there's 350 million, then you have to take into account some of them are under 18. They can't. Yes. Right. And then I guess once you're over 18, you can do it until you die, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's.
But the reality is that not everyone votes. We understand this. And those that do vote, if everyone, they did a study and they said if they removed voting restrictions and just let people vote, a Republican would never be in office because most people don't lean that hard anymore.
Right.
That whole mentality of the conservative. And that's why the conservatives fight so hard for the way they live, because they know that most people don't vote that way because most people now have lives that are mixed and mingled. They're rubbing elbows with people of different cultures.
Right, but okay, so but conservative. Oh, so I am socially liberal, but fiscally conservative,
which most of us are.
Right, and so a lot of times when the liberals suggest things like Kamala's latest thing about taxing unrealized capital gains, that's dangerous. Now, it's not going to happen.
Time out. How is it dangerous?
Well, because the market fluctuates, right? So now imagine you.
What's your net worth?
No. It's for rich people now, but it doesn't matter who it's for.
It does, because it's using the same philosophy that Trump uses when he gives tax breaks to the huge rich people. It's the same philosophy. It's just on the opposite side of it.
But hold on. Okay. When you buy stock, you might, and let's say it goes up $50 today, right? So it's up $50, but it's not yours yet. It's not yours until you sell.
Okay.
Right? So how could you tax something that's not real? Because what if they tax it when it went up 50 and all of a sudden now it's down 100? You ruin people.
But that's why she put it on. That's why she put it on the limit. You have to be $100 million. You have to be worth $100 million.
But
so it's the top. I think they did the numbers. Somebody said to me today. We were talking. It's 11,000 people that it would touch. 11,000 people that are worth $100 million.
But Sanders had a better idea, and I wasn't a Sanders guy. Sanders had a way better idea, and that was, why don't we just do a 0.1% on all the trades, right? So now if you buy $1,000 worth of stock, you're gonna pay a $1 tax. But if you buy $1 million worth, then you, right? And nobody's gonna blink an eye about it, and they're still gonna generate a lot of money. But at least it's fair, because you don't have to. You know, when you short a stock, there's unlimited down, right? I mean, it's dangerous.
It's. I will tell you, the problem that we have is the billionaires, well, the millionaires and the billionaires are playing a game of who's trying to fuck us the worst,
right?
And who's trying to help us the worst. Meanwhile, the people on the lower end that are like, I just want to live my life every day, we're the ones getting screwed, because we got to pick up the slack for all the shit that they are
right.
doing.
But there's ways to tackle it. There's ways to tackle it. Like,
but here's the thing: what I'm going to say, I can't argue for a billionaire or a millionaire when I ain't got that kind of money.
No. I'm not arguing for them.
No, but what I'm saying is, I understand what you're saying.
Right.
The concept totally makes sense. I'm not disputing that. I can't see myself defending the good or the bad of it when it doesn't affect my income level. Like, I am nowhere close to that.
But here's the thing, right? Once they put that in effect, where you can actually tax unrealized capital gains, that's already done. Now, why can't they just make it for everybody? Because they certainly can.
Well,
right?
But that to me is a scare tactic, because they haven't done that with it.
No, I don't think they can pull it off. But here's another way. So now, you know, W-2 income, it doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or me. W-2 income is taxed at a certain rate, and there's no getting around it, right? So these guys get away with taking income, not W-2 income. Okay, fine. So what are they doing? Are they borrowing against stock, right? Are they, right? So all we have to do is tax the loan that they're taking, right? I mean, there's other ways to do it and make it harder for them to use the loophole, and then we could get money out of them, but it's at least fair.
But I think the problem is that we're always looking for an absolute solution.
Yeah, there's no way.
And there is no absolute solution. So we tie ourselves into these absolute solutions as, why couldn't they do it this way?
Right.
Versus saying there's a reason why they wanted to go that route.
Right.
Which, it's when you bought this home and you made a decision and your wife was like, I like the house, fuck you, this is what we're buying. And you're like, well, I want her happy, so if she wants the house, like that.
Were you there?
Logic.
Because that's what happened. That's what happened.
But that's what happens with most people. It's the wife and the husband and the wife go look at a house, and 9 times out of 10.
No. What happened was, I was very fortunate, right? When I was about 30, I decided I didn't want to pay rent, so I bought a cheap condo in Lodi. I paid $75,000, right? And I was able to take a 15-year loan. I put 10% down, and after 10 years, I walked away with enough to put a down payment on this, right? So it was just, it would have been the same amount if I would have paid rent, but instead I bought a cheap condo. Now, I could have bought a nicer condo up on Garrett Mountain, but then, you know, I said, well, fuck, if I do that, I got a great fishing rod, but I can't afford bait, right? So I did it that way, and it worked out.
But what I'm saying is,
we bought this when our son was born.
But the reality still comes back to that your decision for you buying this house is not like that person's decision for them buying the house.
Right.
So like I used to crack this joke, and I believe it. When a lottery hits, when a lottery always goes over 500 million,
right?
You could tell the people who have money and the people who don't. The people who don't have money start talking about all the crazy shit they're going to do because like, I got money now. Smart people that have had money, they're like, oh, well, I'm probably going to work another 10 years and let the money sit and collect. And then I'll retire and just live off of that interest.
Sure.
From the 5 to 10 years of it just sitting there.
Yeah.
The interest alone, now I know I will be able to live a nice life off of that. Right?
Sure.
Versus you get somebody that's me, like, I'm going to collect the money butt naked, wearing nothing but alligator shoes. And I'm going to have Michael Jackson playing in the background. You know, like, who's bad? Like, I'm thinking of all the asshole shit. Like, I'm going to burn. If I hit 800, if I was to hit the 800 million, I'm going to burn through at least 10 million to be an asshole and just do shit to do shit. going to a bar. They're like, oh, you're cute. I'm buying a whole bar tonight just because I could do it. Like asshole shit that doesn't need to get done.
Right.
But you want to be able to say you did it at least once.
Right.
Hey, you want to go to Hawaii? Cool. All of us are going to Hawaii. You know?
Yeah.
Can you afford it? Yeah, I can afford it. One time.
One time.
I didn't do nothing for you.
Right.
Like shit like that. Is it good to do? No, it's not good to do. But it's funny on its face to say. You know what I mean? That being the case, every time we think about the solutions that are offered, we have to come into the reality that it's impossible for those motherfuckers to have a perfect solution for us all.
No, there's no way.
But then you turn on this situation with people like Trump, who uses scare tactics. But when he was caught with his pants down last night, and what did he say? I have concepts of a plan that will be better than the plan that's there. You were in office. You were running for a year and a half, right? About replacing Obamacare.
Right.
You were in office for 4 years. So that right there is for 5.5 years, right? So for 5.5 years, you didn't put anything in place.
Right.
You've been running for another 4 years, which is 9.5 years. And you still don't have a plan.
A plan.
But you want people to elect you.
Sure.
Because you got the concept of a plan.
Yeah.
That makes sense to people.
Yeah, but right. But that's the whole thing, right? I mean, they just want to get elected. Right?
You can want to get elected all you want.
I think that
come up with something.
Most of those people don't have any concept of what regular people's lives are like.
Well, he don't.
A lot of them don't. Like Mick. Remember Romney? When I heard Romney talk, I was like, "Holy shit, man! This guy is not in touch with reality."
Well, you do remember what Mitt Romney's whole entire business was, right?
I don't remember.
Mitt Romney's business plan was simple. He would buy businesses, like he bought Toys R Us and break them up.
Oh, okay.
And that's how he made his money. Now I'm going to say that again. He bought the businesses. My aunt is not. My aunt passed away to see something, and I'm like, yo, they didn't. I'm like, please tell me they don't have her sitting there. No, she passed away. All right. So, unfortunately, I was looking at something wrong, right? So, my thing is, if you look at the reality of it, his game was break apart a company and sell off the divisions and make money.
Right.
That's how he made money.
Right.
That's why he was so fucking rich. That's what Donald Trump did. The reason why Donald Trump was a piece of shit was because Donald Trump would ask you to donate $25 million.
Right.
He'd ask another guy to,
and then he'd screw you out of it.
And then he would say, "Okay, I got to file bankruptcy because we didn't make money."
Right.
Well, who makes money out of the bankruptcy? He did. Right. He's selling all the divisions off.
Right.
So he's making something. He's paying you back pennies on the dollar. And he's like, "Well, I filed bankruptcy, so there ain't shit you can really do about it."
Right. Right.
Right. So Donald Trump would profit off the bankruptcies.
Right.
But everybody else wouldn't. And how did he get away with that? He gets to write off. Did you see the thing where he wrote off $900 million for 10 years? He got to write off. I think it was. My numbers could be wrong.
I don't know. I don't follow any of this.
So he wrote off. It was
on the other side. I don't follow any of it.
You're able to write off a loss.
Yeah.
So he wrote off a loss of $900 million.
That's wild,
right?
Yeah.
So he was able to claim that over 10 years. I don't know if it was 900. I don't think it was 900 million a year.
Yeah,
but it was like a little bit of that
fractional.
loss.
Sure.
Every year,
right?
Because the government ain't going to write you a check for 900 million at once.
Well, he doesn't get a check for 900 million. No. What he's doing is he's saying that's going to offset his tax, right?
It's going to offset him for the next. It was like offsetting for the next 10 years, right? But so now, when people ask how did he get in trouble in New York City, because when they ran through his actual numbers, it was like, so you're taking all these tax breaks, but according to your own records, you've been bilking us, meaning not loopholes. You've basically been fudging the numbers to get to those loopholes.
Gotcha.
And that's what people fail to realize. And when people say, yeah, but it's not illegal, it is illegal.
Uh-huh.
But when you do it and it's like $5,000 and $6,000, it's kind of like pay the $5,000, $6,000 and shut the fuck up, right?
Right.
Okay, you built us for $50,000, shut the fuck up. Pay it back and we're done.
Right.
But this fucker was doing it for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right, right.
The government, New York State and the government was like, dude, and you're going on TV and bragging that you're doing it.
That's crazy.
That's the problem that I have with him. It's, dude, you are basically taking advantage of the system and bragging to people that you're doing it and making everyone else look stupid. Yeah, we know the government's corrupt. Duh.
A lot of it, right?
Black or white. It's fucking corrupt. There's black people that have lost their businesses because the government, does eminent domain. We won't let you build here again because we got shit we want to do.
Got it.
There's white people that they've done it to. So the government screws people. The problem is Donald Trump represents that ultimate rich white guy who thumbs his nose up at the world and says, I can do whatever the fuck I want. And people want access to that because they feel like, hey, finally somebody's screwing the government. That's your light, bro.
No, you know why? That's my light. That's my light. That's funny.
I gotta go.
Oh,
it moves.
Wait, we're on camera. You gotta sign this shit.
Oh, you're killing me, bro.
That's it, man. I'm the guy.
You'll get one.
You want to take anything home?
Nah,
right.
I'm good. I'm gonna go home and sleep. Ooh, wow. What came out of this?
What do you mean? Oh, it's just a...
No, I know.
This was fun.
No, I thank you for this.
Well, thanks for coming, man. And this is a good setup. I like it. Yeah, this is wet. What the fuck? Yeah, I don't notice it until usually in the morning when, you got the morning dew.
Oh, when you're here at night.
Oh, man. So I got one tomorrow.
Who's tomorrow?
Tomorrow is my neighbor. He's an accountant, but he works for a clearinghouse. So he's got a Series 6, Series 7.
Mm.
So it's that kind of thing. So he's going to shed some light on things that he does that every time he explains it to me, I have to then go Google what the fuck he talked about. So
that shit's hilarious. You're like, I gotta go Google it.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I don't remember the words. The
best way you could continue support to me is anytime this conversation comes up, give this book to someone or tell them you need to go buy that book.
So before you do this, I talked about Kyle earlier, right? There's a movie on Tubi, which is essentially this book. It's called A White Man Walks Into a Barbershop. Have you seen that?
No.
He talks about, like, you guys could be brothers. He talks about pretty much everything you talk about in this book, but a white guy doing it. And then I talked to him about it here, and he's like, I took it upon myself to go do this, and you shut it off?
No, it's still on.
Still on. But
I believe it is. Whatever. Did I turn it off?
No. Maybe the battery died? No, mine's still green. Anyhow, yeah, just take a gander at that. It's I think you'll like it. What I don't understand is nobody's talking about Rittenhouse anymore. And, that was a big thing. And my whole take on it is this. Bad parenting, right? I mean, fucking kid's 17 years old. He should have never been there. Fucking bad parenting, right? Would you let your kid go to a place where there's looting and rioting with a loaded? Of course not. Bad parenting, right? Good parents would have sent them with a sniper rifle and let them hide in the hills. That would have been smarter.